All right, with your hands up. If you think if you think it's hot today, clap once. 1, 2, 3. If you think that Dubai is going to be the next wonderful, powerful innovation hub, clap twice. And if you think Asia and APAC is going to catch up with Dubai, clap 3 times. I love you. This is what we're all about today, right? It's about the Asia Playbook. Okay, so I hope this will attract some attention for people to come and join us. We heard about, and please, my lovely panelists, we have heard about the innovation all the way from, EMEA, from all the Europe, what's been doing. Yeah, the Adidas people are not here. I'm actually wearing Adidas shoes, but too bad, he didn't see my shoes, all right? So this topic today is very simple. We're going to look at the Asia Playbook. And before I start, I would like to say that I'm from Asia. I'm very proud. Like all of you are proud of your heritage and your country. And I think we're here to co-create some story together. All right, so before I'm going to take out my wonderful, all right. One more question. How many of you here are startup founders and IP holders? Startup founders, oh, I love you. Thank you for being entrepreneur, innovator, and who you are. How many of you invest in technology, VCs and sponsors? Only one. Where's the Adidas guy? He left, too bad. All right. How many of you are from the government agencies that look at development of ecosystems? Oh, where's Dubai Sports Council? Oh, that's Rebecca. Thank you. Thank you so much. So to kickstart this panel on Asia Playbook for startups and IPs, let's look at some key findings from that we got it on the APAC growth, right? So let me just share with you quickly. First one. For the forecast between 2025 to 2030 is about 10 to 11% CAGR growth in terms of strong IT and AI areas, tailwinds. We're not surprised. We heard about what they talked about AI in the previous panel, AI and IT. Second component, all right? McKinsey had a research on AI and capital and says that Asia's fixed investments could reach 140 trillion by 2040 and projected to be 110 billion by 2028. That's 24% cargo growth. So if you're not looking at APAC, please look harder. And then we'd look at about, in the next 10 years, 2030 to 2040, Asia is going to be a digital powerhouse because there'll be many unicorns being incubated. Simple. Our population is growing, is young, it's native, digital natives, and rising internet adoption. So that is the whole landscape of Asia growth in the next 20 to 30 years. I'm privileged to have on my right an industry veteran in the sports tech industry, strategies on M&A and investments, and an advocate for wellness and tech. So pleasure to have you on board, Jean-Baptiste Hua, or we can call him JB. Happy to have you here. And you're the co-founder for Asia Sports Tech, which is all about empowering and transforming the sports industry through leveraging on breakthrough technologies and IPs. First question, JB. First question. When you think of the Asia sports tech landscape, what image comes to your mind? Sleeping lion, crouching tiger, or just joking?
No, thanks for the great intro, Peggy.
Yeah.
I've been kind of veteran in Asia because I lived there for about half of my life so far, so about 18 years. Throughout, different cities, Hong Kong, Singapore, Shenzhen, throughout many cities in China. And I've seen the evolution and the change. I've been on and off, personal 1 minute about who am I, but on and off private equity, family office investments, and growth strategy acceleration across consumers. So when I started, I worked for about 8 years for one of the largest European family that were coming from luxury and consumers. So they were focused on, they were already making quite a lot of money from luxury space, but they really understood Chinese consumers in a big way. I mean, now this family is one of the largest, they're always in the top 5 of the largest families in the world, and they keep on generating huge amount of money from China growth and luxury growth. However, they understood the evolution of consumer spend. So at that time, with the family office, were already divesting into, the future of consumer trend, which is healthcare and tourism, sports, media, entertainment, lifestyle, and so on and so forth. And then over time, I spent all my last 10 years in only focus about what I call the hobby dollars, which is sports, health and wellness, and lifestyle. And throughout this thing, we have seen a massive changes. So at the beginning, we started to see the first wave, where we studied the Asian investors buying into the IPs, the football clubs, and so on. But then we saw the acceleration of the IPs trying to understand the Asian fans, setting up their offices, many in Singapore, some in Shanghai, in Hong Kong, and so on. Try to understand how to engage and monetize Asian fans. But now, interestingly, it's not only from the international IPs trying to monetize those, but is also Asia as a consumer hub. Because as you said correctly, there is across India, China, and Southeast Asia, the reason that we work a lot closely that we are active on a daily basis, we are close to 4 billion consumers that are highly consuming sports. By sports is what I call for us, sports is not only the media side, but is a big piece on the wellness, like Federico said earlier, and extending towards what we call also longevity, because in our mind, we do sports. Sports is the best medicine to keep us alive and active, and it echoes very well with what Federico was saying. So I think there are many different ways to look at Asia. Not only from a manufacturing hub, but now a lot of the biggest consumer brands come from Asia.
So JB is the worst student you have in class. I asked him what is the metaphor that comes to his mind. He gave me a thesis on about all the stuff about APAC, but just joking, right? So he's got a rich experience across, and I love the thing talk about hobby, right? Hobby is about tourism, it's about sports, about lifestyle and wellness and tech. And that's actually like what we have said and seen the previous 10 panels that's growing. So JB, again, so coming back, just one metaphor image. If you think of the Asian sports tech industry, what comes to your mind? A picture, a metaphor.
I think nowadays, not only the rising dragon, it will become Kenny is the rising dragon, I would say.
Kenny is the dragon. So you're the sleeping dragon.
So I would say Kenny is not sleeping anymore. They're not sleeping anymore. Now they're rising.
You know that,
I would say they're rising dragons.
And in Chinese, dragon means it's like a symbol of power and symbol of fire. So I think that's a very apt imagery. So I love what you do, JB. What you've done in the space. You've been in this space for a couple of years, and your work is truly something I respect, especially in the way you work with the IP rights holders and the startups. So could you share a bit about your vision of transforming the APAC sports tech industry through leveraging on these technologies? What is your vision, and what are you thinking? What are the key principles?
I think sports tech is one piece, but I think if I can step a little bit back, I say also as a sports and IP in general, we need to look at, as I say, one of the big pillars is also engaging fans. How to increase, we heard it on the previous panel, fan monetization. It's a very different way. Let's say for most of the Asian markets, it's not the traditional, media monetization model. And a lot of international IPs have failed in understanding how to do that by saying, oh, how come I go to China but they don't buy media rights? No. You need to pay them to distribute.
Yes.
It's an opposite model. But then you reach out hundreds of millions of fans. Then you need to understand how to make money from them.
I love that. Fan
so that's very, very important. If you think your traditional prism not adapting to the largest consumer market in the world, you need to switch off. The world has changed. Like we're in 2025, soon 2026. Asia is leading. If you look at every innovation companies nowadays, most of them. If you look at sports presence, if you were watching the last Euro or FIFA World Cup, half of the main sponsors around the pitch are Chinese. BYD, Alipay, Hisense, and so on. So the impact on sports consumers, so they buy at the Euro is even more visible. It's interesting to see that even at an event that is technically supposed to be in Europe, they are leveraging those IPs for their brand outreach outside. So there is way to make money with sports leveraging the Chinese and the Asian ecosystems. However, I believe that some teams and IPs have done it very, very well. Some clubs particularly that, have deep relationship into the Asian markets. For example, if you look at PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, it's a club that has a very deep relationship in China with multiple offices, across Singapore with a great hub with our good friend Sebastian leading it there. But they have Camille there, but they have someone in Korea, someone in Japan, a few people in China. They really put people on the ground. And then look, they collaborated with famous artists, Hong Kong Chinese artists,
influencers,
exactly to do collabs. Then they proactively monetized, Lee Kang-in, their Korean partners right away with people on the ground there. But then if you look at the opposite of a team in the Premier League that got beaten by PSG last night, that had the most famous Korean player for almost 8 years to 10 years on their roster, they never monetized one single Korean brand because they didn't do the work on the ground.
Exactly.
People don't come to try to understand, and I think that's why, people that want to understand as well the region, especially on top of that, in addition on the startup side, there is great, amazing platforms like what you have built and what you are leveraging with GSIC there that people should leverage more on to understand the region better. I mean, together we are here to educate about the opportunities. The complexity sometimes is this. People want to understand more, but they're not sure where they can learn more. And here, I think there is a lot of knowledge of things we are happy to share. And I think Kenny is a great example showing that.
So before I come in, so there were 3 good points that JB pointed out. In APAC, you have India and China, probably the most 2 populous countries in the world. And that's right. You got to monetize your fan data, number 1. And how you collect that, of course, right? Collect first-party data, build your fan profile, and monetize that to your sponsors and partners. And second thing, like what JB says, in Asia, especially in Korea and Japan, there's a very huge pop culture. So to be able to use the influencers, the celebrities, like in Korea, esports is huge. It's like a celebrity. Everybody wants to be doing esports, and all the esports players are like film stars. So you could understand that influencer culture is very huge in Asia. And like what JB also said, right? It's about also understanding how the government plays a role, which was actually shared in the previous panel by Iris. In Asia, the government has a much more active role. For example, in Singapore, I was with the Singapore government. We give a lot of funding at innovation initiatives. We have an innovation grant. We have programs to encourage more people to play sports. We have programs to encourage active aging. So the government is something you need to look at when you come to Asia, because the government, by mandate and the way we operate, has a lot of power to give you that money, even when someone said, right, the sports, I think it was Adidas, right, the sports, it's COVID-proof. That happens when the government comes in. And I think, thank you, JB, for talking about GSIC. So we are an innovation hub. We were set up in Singapore 3 years ago. 5 years ago, we were there because the Singapore government, as an example, I'm not trying to sell my organization to you. As an example, we were asked to set up an innovation hub in Singapore to make Singapore the sports tech hub for Asia. What we do is we set up a physical infrastructure, we set up innovation programs, we activate our local ecosystem of federations, leagues, startups, IP rights, and try to link them to the entire world through GSIC. That's what we do. Now, zooming out of the sporting ecosystem, this young gentleman here, a startup founder. His name is Kenny Octavius. Kenny, you are a sports tech enthusiast. I think you are an innovator. You are an entrepreneur. You developed Point Fit Technologies. You started your company in 2020 based out of Hong Kong. You've expanded into new markets in APAC like Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, Taiwan. And actually, you have raised up to close to $2.5 million in seed funding. A round of applause for Kenny, please and gentlemen. A young starting entrepreneur from APAC. Not easy for him. So, Kenny, first question to you. Very important. Why do you do what you do? And what is Point Fit technology?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is...
Test your mic. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. You guys can hear me clearly?
Yep.
All right. Yeah, my pleasure to be here, first and foremost. So my name is Kenny. So I'm actually Indonesian. I came to Hong Kong in 2015 for study. And then I studied chemical engineering. So actually that's where the Point Fit actually came from, the research that I've been doing since 2019. So that's exactly right as what JB and Peggy mentioned before. What's unique about Asia is like how the government involvement about how they can transform not only about commercializing private technology, but also about how the technology coming out from the lab. I think that's one key uniqueness, and that's exactly what we do. So what we do at PointFit is we're developing a skin patch sweat sensing that captures the biomarkers. So if you can see here in my skin, this is essentially the core technology that we developed that capturing the biomarkers that you normally need lab tests, like through blood, urine, saliva. Now you can get it in real time, non-invasive through sweat. So that's essentially, I've been working with this material since 2019. And then it took me like 4 or 5 additional R&D years. It definitely tough times for us when we trying to commercialize it into a product. And along the way, before we raise our seed round, we literally got a lot of government grants from Hong Kong. So they do have some government organization called Hong Kong Science Park. That's where essentially where we got our first pre-seed money, how we can first start prototyping. And nowadays we're at the commercialization phase. So yes, what Peggy mentioned, we've been working with a lot of pro teams, national teams, and also, thinking about while we're in Dubai, I'm sweating right now. So probably this is a good market for us as well.
Yeah. So PointFit technology is about non-invasive, right? Measuring, not using needles of blood, just a small little stuff. Yeah. I think you show them. Yeah.
Yep.
So please feel free to take a look. This is real. It's happening. And I think the important point you have to understand is that in APAC, the VC market is not that strong. Not exactly for sports tech, right? They're more into health tech, fintech, and maybe biotech. So a lot of our startups in APAC, what we do is that they look to governments, right? So this is a point that's come out a couple of times. It's an example of how Kenny took advantage of the Hong Kong funding and to give him a step up. But after that, he needs to survive. So Kenny, the Asia Playbook, can you share your journey from the POC, proof of market, to proof of concept stage, all the way to go to market? What does this personal journey look like to share with our audience here? Yeah.
Right. For sure, it's been a long journey for us to start out, coming out from, back then it was just like a transparent materials that essentially just a lab hypothesis where we can capture biomarkers without needles. And then after we did that, we published in AAA sensors. Then we realized what the potential it could be and when we actually can make it continuous in real time. That's what we can do right now. So we started out with joining the Hong Kong Science Park. There are a lot of funding also from our own university. So we're from the Hong Kong University of Science Technology. And I think 2022, 2023, that's where we joined their incubation program. And that's where we start developing into full products, where we develop the electronics. So right now, how we do it, we embedded this onto a textile. So we're embedding it into a wristband form, which of course later on can be modularly to go for other types of designs, to shorts, clothing, and so on. And we developed the apps to get the real-time reading. So even right now, I wouldn't say we're done developing. So we are still developing to be partnering with Garmin, other wearables, making it as seamless as integratable to more sports ecosystems. And I think the good thing about Asia, what I'd say is the speed of innovations. I think the ideas like being there around China, the GB, I think all of you might know how powerful China is with the manufacturing, and it's actually something that I never feel it until I actually develop this, right? So the speed of how we can iterate, order a new design of PCB, order it, and it can arrive in 1 week. We test it out, it doesn't work, we do it again. Compare when we say, because I'm from Indonesia, I have a lot of other fellow founders from Indonesia. They have to wait for at least 2-3 weeks for they actually to iterate one types of design. So having that, I think, some sort of superpower of that advantage, I think that really, really plays out very, very well to our advantage so that we can reach to this point.
So 2 key points, right? I think it's important to have some incubation programs, right? Where there's, I think there are a few in Singapore, in Hong Kong, in Taiwan. And Kenny was one of our mentees looking through the incubation program where the mentors actually mentor them and help them to accelerate their learning curve. And second point you talk about is obviously the speed to the market, right? The speed to production. You guys know that China is a huge market. Production capacity is awesome. It's, we got to know where to work, how to work, but iteration is very fast, very efficient. So that's something that I think we appreciate. That's a strength of one of the Apex kind of innovation capital. And I think the third point is ecosystem players, right? So you have stuff here, you look at the wearable, and he's looking at what? Wearables like Garmin, he's looking at Strava, looking at all the different watch makers, right, to put that in. So I think looking at ecosystem players is very important, even as you move from POC to go to market stage. What do you think, Sean?
I think if I can add something on this a little bit more. I mean, I know personally Kenny for 5 years, so he has been my mentee for a long time, and I need to disclose I'm as one of his lead investor on this one, because I've been accelerating companies in Asia for a decade, and now I'm accelerating them more with capital, with the launch of our new fund, backed by Asian families, which things are changing. And the reason we're seeing it changing is following on what we were talking earlier, is there is a very, very strong consumer market now also in Asia. And of course, I've been supporting Kenny because I've been in the sports tech industry. I've been looking for, some of the best technology company in that space coming from Asia. However, for many years, it was not the focus. People were more into fintech, logistics, what people knew in the region that was big, where the region is famous for, when there is a lot of money for real estate tech and so on and so forth. This is what people knew were building automations and so on. Sports and health and wellness wasn't really a thing. But now, with the rise of events, with great mass participation events all around the region, and stronger consumer interest, and on top of that, as you said, government funding to support sports and health. I think the focus is more on the sports and health side, related to more the media side, I would say, for most of the government in the region. They really cared about the health and wellness piece, the impact on health span. How can we get people moving, active, healthy, and happy? This technology fits perfectly into that. What Kenny has built, because live biomarkers, we collect them, we can understand better our body, and especially the biomarker that Kenny is the most focused on is lactate. And lactate is the key biomarker of longevity. We know there is a lot of studies, especially from our friend Inigo here, who is training in the region, Tadej at UAE Emirates team. We know that this is the present. Today, people are doing lactate tests and zone 2 training. You may have heard of this if we are in the sports space. And today, I don't know how many of you here have ever done lactate test to understand what your thresholds are. But if you don't know it, how do you train today? When the top athletes in the world, the Norwegian trio that did 1, 2, 3 at World Ironman World Champ, Tadej and Remco, who are, world champions and Olympic gold medalists and 3-time Tour de France winners. This is how they train. This is the science. And Kenny is building on making a device to bring it to the masses. And I think these kind of companies could propel and give a lot of opportunities, we believe, for future entrepreneurs from Asia, saying, look, we can be successful. We have a strong backbone of manufacturing and supply chain. We have government supports. And consumer now want to consume this kind of product too. So I think we will see.
It's a virtuous cycle.
And the last piece, I would say, to talk about more my side of it. Finally, the larger families of the region in Asia, because a lot of business over there are led by families, are now seeing this as a growth investment opportunity. I've been trying to convince them to invest in the space for a long time. Before, I make them invest in football clubs, in media rights. This worked. They understood that, but they didn't understand, the consumer side. Now they are getting it. They are like, we have all this real estate, but we need new software inside.
Yep.
And a lot of them are going to come from wellness, longevity, sports.
totally agree.
And they want to invest in that piece of the equation. And that's why we see this wave of acceleration that I think we see much
So
more.
it's like a flywheel. Coming back to the picture, right? And I love the point about family offices. If you have done enough research, there's a lot of family offices coming to Singapore for obvious reasons, right? Ever since Hong Kong and now with Taiwan, right? And these are facts. And they're coming with loads of money. They want to invest. And I think the point about the rising popularity of health and fitness, it is, I would say, one of the highest levers that you can work on. That's why Kenny's technology is going to fly. All right, because it's all about health and wellness. Second point, I love the part that where Sean, JB talks about, it's like a vicious cycle, right? First, you got to have the product that the region needs. We have a very young population. You look at Vietnam, look at India, the adoption rate for internet. The younger people now, they don't go out and drink so much. They want to exercise, right? They don't go and binge themselves. They prefer to go to the gym. So these are the rising trends. High rocks, for example, one of the biggest trends, right? So if you look at that, but place your bet in areas that reflect the rising popularity in Asia, number one. Number two, manufacturing base. We are cheaper. Whatever reasons, we are cheaper in China, in India, even in Vietnam. And Da Nang is now the tech capital of Vietnam. Take a look. Thirdly, he talks about consumer base, right? Consumer base, rising middle class in APAC that are willing to spend. We are willing to spend, and that is an important factor. And I think the fourth factor to talk about is government support, right? A lot of governments in Asia are very, we function a bit more, I wouldn't say top-down, but very structured, very functional. If you look at Singapore, you look at Korea, I came back from Korea, if you look at Japan, right? They're very functional, very structured, and they always have huge government schemes supporting all the various innovation, right? And I think, and now plus the family offices coming in. So there's huge amount of capital. It's up to you to look at which area you're going to go in. We're going to move to the last segment. I have 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And I want to invite my two dear friends. First of all, I want to bestow upon them a magic wand. A magic wand in modern day technology is called the pen. JB, Kenny, is the pen. And we're going to co-create the Asia Playbook together. The Asia Playbook on how we commercialize sports technologies. Asia Playbook on how we actually internationalize and help people go into the international market, all right? So now that you have the magic wand, I know it's a pen, but it's still magic. Kenny, the first question to you. What are some of the key insights? 3 points, all right? Let's be clear. 3 points. What are some of the key insights and learning points that you put in this playbook in terms of commercializing sports technology as a startup?
I think, on top of my head, I think first thing and the hardest thing is for when you're starting up is how to build a momentum and keeping it. I think that's definitely key. And I mean, Silicon Valley playbook is always like, why now, right? I think the thing with sports is what I like is like you always have everything every year.
Yeah.
Like FIBA World Cup, FIFA World Cup, Olympics, every 4 years always an events. And for you using that and leveraging that as your momentum, I think is definitely a huge advantage.
So looking at events and build momentum. Second
Exactly.
point?
Second thing I think is about, I think it really comes back to like, okay, so why are you building it? I think who is it for? Who's gonna buy it? How to monetize? It all comes back like whether people are willing to buy your device, right?
So
I
is it
think
a target market or is it your passion more important?
I'll say both. Like
Both.
I mean,
Okay.
I wouldn't survive for
Yeah.
top 5
Passion
years.
can give you money, but passion's aligned to the market, you boom, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
So I mean,
All right.
if I
Awesome.
don't like this, I wouldn't. Probably I would give up
I'll
in
take it.
third year.
And the last point.
I think lastly is, I think it's also about how you build your team. Sometimes
Leadership.
as a startup, what matters about the people. So it's about who you're doing it with. I think that's what keeps you up in not only in when you're winning, but also especially when you're losing. I think that's how you keep it together, how you keep motivating and not giving up. I think that's always the.
I love
the
that. And
key.
back to Sam's point, right? Leadership, right? When people care what you care, when people know that you care, they care about what you say. So I love that. So 3 points from Kenny Octavius, on his personal journey. Number 1, build on your momentum, right? If there is a trend going up, if it's high rocks, if it's digitization, if it's health and fitness, do it. Secondly, be clear about your passion and what your target segments are. And third one, have a good leadership. People are what matters most, right? If you have a team that doesn't believe in you, they're not aligned with your vision, they come to work, they don't know what they wake up for, it's going to be tough. So leadership. Of course, my favorite friend. You're going to go back to 10,000 feet helicopter view of the entire ecosystem. So what are some of the 3 key points that you would like to share about this playbook? How do we help startups and IPs to internationalize?
I think, I covered quite a lot of them throughout, I think, of explaining it through. But I believe what's super valuable nowadays, in our opinion, is also purpose.
Purpose.
So from my side of the world and the family I support, in deploying capital into this space, they don't do it for the short-term gains. They are very patient. They have built, empires over decades and generation. Many of them are second, third time family businesses, and this really matters to them. So we need to care about those in order to building for future growth. I would say that's very important.
Purpose-driven,
and 2
solid.
is and through that is building trust for internationalization. I think what's lacking today, maybe in a way, for Asian companies as a whole, is I see a discrepancy between the quality of the product and the brand perception. The best technology companies, and we can see it, I think the EV market is started to show it to the rest of the world that China is the best in everything, but I lived there forever. In the past, it was foreign companies leveraging that supply chain to build their best. Now, I think Asian firms, I'm working with also Indian firms, in the wearable space, etc. They are start to say, hey, let's be confident. Let's build brands. How can we learn from the Arnos and to build future brands?
Is it trust or confidence?
No, I think it's trust with international consumers.
You think that trust
about the quality of the product. People before they were very good at building brand on top, but nowadays I think Asian brands needs to be better at building trust with international players, investors, but also consumers. So I think it's this that we need to do, and hopefully what I'd love to do more is reducing, information asymmetry, and welcoming everyone to come and visit us to the region to learn how we can help build together and get everyone healthy and active.
I love that. Happy family. So 3 points from Sean. I know the first one is about, we said that again, be purpose-driven. Second is trust, and the happy family. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much to Sean and JB and Kenny. Thank you.